Recording in pro.
All right. So as today in class, we have a kind of guide throughout class, a kind of protagonist, but he's more of an antagonist, right? So throughout on our slides, there's this guy called Jibby, and he is going to be guiding us throughout class today. However, Jibby is no hero. Has anyone ever met a person like this? Meet Jibby, the guy who reads Wikipedia, watches YouTube, and looks at a few textbook covers and thinks he's an expert on everything. Anybody knows a guy like this? Let me know on the chat. Right, so be prepared to meet Jibby. So here's our first game for that scrap piece of paper, right? You're going to be playing for money. Well, fake money, obviously. And whoever has the most amount of money at the end of class, well, wins. So here's for $5, right? Fake dollars. Choose any two numbers on the screen. And what will happen? The squares will change color. And if your two numbers are the same color, you win $5. So you're going to put down the $5. Lucky. All right. Are your two numbers, chosen numbers, the same color? If they are the same color, write down $5 on your scrap piece of paper. If you did not get the same color, well, you get no money. And of course, you're going to get a next try later on. All right. So this is the first piece here. Right now, if you guys want a topic, you just have to put foundation. Because today is just foundation, right? Everything that the entire subject basically rests on. So our story begins with Jibby looking at the back of a milk carton, a container of milk. And we all know that whenever we buy food from the supermarket, right? Whether it be milk, whether it be beans, ketchup, mustard, it doesn't matter. Whenever we turn the package to the back, it has the nutritional information. And of course, for those who are very health conscious, right? Like myself, I always try to read the back to see what nutrition this particular food has. However, in science, you're going to hear two terms: macronutrients and micronutrients. Well, nutrients are things that your body needs. Now, GB is actually right about one thing over here, at least. The word macro means big, and micro means what? Small. So whenever you hear the term macronutrients, that means your body needs plenty of those things. Micronutrients means your body only needs a little bit of those things. So you're probably wondering, all right, Sir just mentioned macro and micronutrients. How about he gives us some examples of exactly what macro and micronutrients are? You do not need to take down anything on the screen right now. Whenever I want you to take down something, I will make it very, very, very clear. So let's move to the next slide. And I'm going to show you the examples of macronutrients. Do not take down anything else yet. Let me talk it through first, right? It's a good idea to listen first. The first thing that we are going to tackle is macronutrients. Remember, macro means a lot or big, meaning that your body needs a lot of these things. And most of you have heard about the macronutrients. The four macronutrients on the syllabus are carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, and water. Now, a lot of people might not be accustomed with the term lipid, but I guess another term we normally use for lipid is fats. Anybody want to give me an idea of, give me some examples of fatty foods? They're just off the top of my head. Don't look at the screen. Off the top of your head, can you give me some examples of fatty foods? We usually think of all fatty foods as bad, but that's not true, because there are actually good fats and bad fats. The real name for fatty foods are lipids. But we don't usually say that in real life. We just say fats or fatty foods, right? So I'm reading a chart here of some examples of fatty foods or lipids. So you see things like carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, and water. Yes, water is a macronutrient, right? Your body needs a lot of these things. And I'm going to give you some examples. So if you want carbohydrates, right? You want it, that just give you a few examples, a couple examples. There are actually hundreds of examples I can give you, but you don't have time to write 100. If you want carbohydrates, you want to eat things like bread or cassava. They are loaded with carbohydrates. And what do carbohydrates do? Well, they give us what? Energy. I think everybody knows that when you're very low on energy and you're feeling tired, you just feel for bread and something, like bread and chicken or cassava or something sugary. Sugar has a lot of carbohydrates in it, okay? So carbohydrates give you energy. Now, a lot of people don't actually know what happens when we eat carbohydrates. Let's say you are feeling tired and you eat bread or you eat cassava. Why does that give you energy? Have you all ever wondered why, or you're just too busy eating? Most people will never think about that. Well, today we're going to get into the details, like why when you eat carbohydrates, things like bread, sugar, cassava, why it gives you energy. And it has to do with your digestive system. We know when we eat, we swallow the food, it goes into our stomachs, and then our stomachs is connected to our intestines. That's our digestive system. You see, our digestive system will take the carbohydrates and break it down into smaller pieces. That is essentially what our digestive system does. It takes big pieces of food, macronutrients like carbohydrates, and it breaks it down into smaller pieces. And it's those smaller pieces that our body utilizes. Now, just to make it simple, I mean, we will go into more detail. Our body or our digestive system will break down the carbohydrates into something called glucose. Glucose is a type of sugar. Now, let me clear something up. A lot of people think that when I use the word sugar, we are referring to the sugar that you find in your kitchen. You know, when you want to make a cup of coffee or a cup of Ovaltine or Milo, you just put sugar in it to make it taste sweeter. There are many different types of sugar found in nature. The one that you find in the kitchen is just one of the many types of sugars. Sugars is a broad category, and it so happens glucose is one type of sugar. So your digestive system will take all of these carbohydrates that you eat and break it down into very small particles. And these very small particles are called glucose. And then your body will use that glucose, and I will show you how your body will use that glucose to give you energy. But that's for later now. Another type of macronutrient is proteins. Now, proteins, as we all know, well, from general knowledge, is used to do what? Well, like when you want muscles, you eat things that are high in protein. But protein also helps you to grow bigger, or repair tissue. Let me say you get a very bad cut, like somebody were to cut you with a knife or something. For your body to repair itself, it's going to need proteins. So we eat things like chicken and soya, which are very high in proteins. And what will happen? Your body will take these proteins that you ate, these macronutrients, and break it down into smaller particles. Just like how carbohydrates is broken down into smaller parts called glucose, the same thing happens with proteins. When your body breaks down proteins into smaller parts, these smaller particles are called amino acids, right? So carbohydrates is broken down into glucose, and proteins are broken down into amino acids. Let's talk about lipids or fats. Let's say that you're craving something, some type of fatty food. You might want to eat butter or cheese. Sometimes I have especially me, I have a cheese craving. Sometimes I'm just sitting down, like after class. I know after class, I'm going to go to my fridge and eat a big piece of cheese. I have issues, but I usually like it. What are lipids used for? What are fats used for? Fats actually have quite a few uses in the body, but one of them is energy storage. Let's just talk about one of them. Remember, our body needs what? Energy. Where do we get energy from again? Do you all remember? I'm not asking a very easy question, but still write it on the chat. Where do we normally get energy from? If the answer is on the screen, just send it on the chat. Okay. So we normally get energy from carbohydrates. Quick question, right? Whenever you have too much food in real life, let me say you go into the kitchen, right? And your parents order pizza, right? So, but you order a whole set of pizza. They order too much pizza. So you eat a few slices and your belly becomes filled. What will you do with the extra pizza? Are you going to throw it away? Or are you going to put it in the fridge and store it for another day? Which one are you going to most likely do? Especially if it's the world's best pizza, a Mario's pizza. I don't know if you all agree with that, but I love Mario's pizza. You are going to store it, right? Nobody in their right mind going to watch extra pizza slices and throw it in the bin. Personally, that will hurt my heart, right? My legs will begin to tremble. I can't stand to see food being wasted, okay? Your body does the same thing, right? You see, a lot of the times, right, your body has too much energy, too much energy. And your body will not throw away that energy, you know. If you eat too much carbohydrates, guess what your body will do? It will store the extra carbohydrates as fat. So you see all that fat on your body, like everybody must have some amount of fat on your body. Even if you're very, very slim, you will have a little bit of fat in your body. That fat most likely came from you eating too much carbohydrates, and your body could not use all the energy from the carbohydrates, so it saved it as fat for a later time when you need it. But you can also get fats by just eating fatty food like butter and cheese. Those things have fat in it. And what your body will do, it will take the fat from the butter and the cheese and store it in your body as fat. So whenever you, let's say you get stranded or on an isolated island and you have no food to eat, so you have no carbohydrates, guess what your body will do? It will take the fat on your body, the stores, the extras, and convert it into energy so you may survive. Now, fats, when you break down fats, just like how when you break down carbohydrates, you get glucose, and when you break down proteins, you get amino acids. When you eat fats, it breaks it down into smaller particles called glycerol and fatty acids. Last one, water. Well, water is simple. Everybody knows what water is. You know where you can get water. From bottled water, rain, your pipes. That's easy. Water is very important. Water has so many uses in your body. There are about 10 uses, but I'm not going to mention all right now. But blood. Isn't your blood a liquid? The majority of the blood in your body right now has water in it. Your blood could not be a liquid without the water in it. And the water is used to dissolve nutrients so it can circulate it around your body. And water does not need to be broken down. Just like how proteins is broken down into amino acids, water, your body does not break down water. When your body gets water, it remains as water. All right, guys, so I need for everyone to take down everything on the screen here. I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Let me know when you are finished, please. Let's have a look at the next slide. All right, so we meet our friend Jibby here again. So where do we get energy from? Let's ask Jibby. Jibby, where do we get energy from? I'm sure Jibby has the correct answer for us. You see, this is Jibby's response, you see, when we eat food, the magic elves that lurk within the shadows are pleased and reward us with magical energy. My mommy would never lie to me. All right. How much of you all think that Jibby is on the right track here and he's not going to have any problems in life whatsoever? All right. We obviously, Jibby here is talking nonsense. He's clearly deluded. Probably his mom is also crazy. I don't know. Right. But anyway, let's see. Oh, well, he could be right because that's a magic elf there in Jibby's head. Right, so let's talk a little bit about what really, really happens. How much of you all have heard this term, respiration? Look it on top here, respiration. For those who don't know what respiration is, a lot of people think, when they hear the word respiration, they think respirator, meaning that it has to do something with breathing, like breathing in and out, like don't get me wrong, respiration has a little something to do with breathing in and out, but in scientific terms, it's not actually about breathing. It has to do a little bit with breathing. Respiration is actually how your body creates energy. It's a scientific term for how you right now are creating energy in your body. So how does your body do it? Well, look at this formula here, right? Remember this thing called glucose? Whenever you eat carbohydrates, remember I told you that your body will take the carbohydrates and break it down into glucose. Then your body will mix it with oxygen. I know what you're probably wondering, but where does this happen in your body? In which part of your body does the glucose and oxygen mix together? We will get to that. So we know we get the glucose from eating carbohydrates. Anybody wants to tell me where we get the oxygen? How does our body get oxygen? It starts with the letter B. It's the same thing I was telling you just now. When we breathe, right? Right. So we get the glucose from eating carbohydrates and we get the oxygen from breathing. What your body will do now is mix these two together and it will get 3 things. You will get carbon dioxide, water, and energy, which is what we really, really care about. So this process, this is the process called respiration. And don't worry, we're going to go into more detail just now. I'm going to show you where in your body this actually happens. I know you all are, for those who are not familiar with the topic, you're probably wondering where inside your body respiration takes place. Okay? But for the time being, just memorize this, write down this formula, and the topic here, the heading, sorry, is respiration. Okay? So let's see what's next on the list today. right? All right. So the slide did change. I don't know if you all noticed that. The slide did change. All right. So all living things need energy, right? Keyword, all living things need energy. You are living, so you need energy. And you just saw that we got energy from what? The process called respiration. We are considered animals, right? So all animals need what? Energy. But what about plants? Do you think plants need energy? Well, what is your response to that? Do plants need energy? Yes, plants are living, right? I mean, I find plants interesting, but a lot of people may not find plants interesting, right? But plants are living organisms and they need energy. Now, one of the biggest differences between animals and plants in the majority of the cases is that if animals want glucose, right? If they want energy, and you could go to the grocery and buy the bread because, well, bread has a lot of carbohydrates, right? And what it will do, you eat the carbohydrates and it converts it to glucose. Animals like tigers and seals and well, fish and whatnot, right? If animals want to get food, they can go get it. They have feet, they have fins. They can actually go out and get the carbohydrates. They could go hunting for it. But what about plants? Suppose you see a hungry tomato plant. Let's just pretend the tomato plant can talk. And he says, oh, I'm so hungry. I need some carbohydrates. I need some glucose. What will you tell the plant? Hey, well, go and get it, right? Pick up your roots and run and go hunting for what? Glucose. The plants cannot move, right? Plants don't go hunting for food. Plants have to create their own food. So I'm going to show you how plants create their own glucose. And it's a process called photosynthesis, right? And of course, GB is deluded again, right? He thinks plants go hunting in the night, blah, blah, blah. He's clearly crazy, right? So there is a process called photosynthesis, which are used by plants. And let's look at the equation. It resembles respiration, but if you look carefully, it's not the same thing as respiration. What plants will do, it will take carbon dioxide. Now, it gets carbon dioxide from the air, right? I will discuss in detail later on how the plants absorb carbon dioxide from the air. It is actually done through the leaves of the plants. The leaves have these small holes that absorb or let carbon dioxide into the plant. Then the plant will take water. Who can tell me which part of the plant, this should be easy, absorbs water? Which part of the plant is responsible for getting water into the plant? The roots, right? Plants have roots. So what the plant will do, it will absorb carbon dioxide through the leaves from the air. It will take water from the roots and it will mix the two together with sunlight. Obviously, sunlight comes from the sun. It will mix these three things together. And when you mix those three things together, you get wonderful glucose and wonderful oxygen. This is how the plant creates glucose. The plant does not go hunting like humans and animals for food. It can't go to the grocery to buy carbohydrates to get glucose. It makes its own glucose directly via a process called photosynthesis. All right? So this is how plants make their food. I want everyone to take down the topic, photosynthesis. You can take down the thing in yellow if you wish to, and take down the equation. Write everything exactly as how I have it on the screen. Let me know when you guys are finished. All right. So I still didn't really explain how plants get energy, or all I did was explain how plants create the glucose. So the plants create the glucose. But then what will happen, right? The plant needs to take the glucose and perform respiration. You will notice I have daytime symbols like the sun here, and I have nighttime. So during the daytime, right, this top process over here, right, the top process is called what again? That's called photosynthesis. I should have write it in. There's photo, S-Y-N. If I spell it wrong, just forgive me. So can photosynthesis, that's the method of how plants create glucose. Can photosynthesis take place in the night? Under normal conditions. I'm not talking about people with light bulbs and things. I'm talking about a normal garden, whatnot. Remember, right, and a lot of people are correct. Photosynthesis requires sunlight. Obviously, the sun is not out at night, okay? So photosynthesis can only occur, I talk about normal conditions, can only occur during the daytime because without the sunlight, it cannot be performed. Now, here's what. Once the plant creates the glucose, what it will do is take the glucose and perform what? Respiration. The underneath process is called respiration. Now, before I explain why I have a sun symbol and a nighttime symbol here, tell me something. You as a living organism, do you always need energy? Do you need energy at every single second in your life? Do you need it during the daytime, nighttime, and every single second of your life? Do you need it? The answer is yes. You need energy at every single second in your life. It doesn't matter if you are awake or if you are sleeping. Let me explain why. A lot of people think that when they are sleeping, right, they do not need energy. First of all, for your brain to function, for your heart to beat, for your lungs to expand in and out, it requires what? Energy. Right throughout your life, every single second, you need energy. If you do not get energy for like even a minute, you die, okay? So the same thing goes for plants. Whether it's nighttime or daytime, the plant performs what? Respiration, even when the plant is sleeping or resting at night. Yes, and plants do need to rest. Okay, you don't already call it sleeping, but the plants actually do go through a resting phase. Okay, but even when it's resting, it needs to produce energy, better known as respiration. So that's why I have a daytime symbol and a nighttime symbol, meaning that respiration occurs 24 hours, 24/7 in all living organisms. Okay? Right? Even if you faint or you are in a coma, you still need energy because when you faint or whether you are in a coma, you are still breathing and you still have brain function. For your brain to function or even for your blood to flow through your body, once you are alive, you need energy, right? Take down everything on the screen and I want you to draw the nighttime and daytime symbols, right? Photosynthesis only happens during the daytime because we need sunlight, but respiration, how the plant or any organism creates energy, is needed both in the daytime and nighttime. Let me know when you guys are finished. Someone asked, why when you hold your breath for too long or you can't breathe for too long, let's say, and of course I don't recommend this, let's say you hold your breath for 5 minutes. Why would you die? To put it simply, remember, without energy, right? Well, once your body goes without energy for too long, like a few minutes is enough to kill you, right? You will die, right? Why is that? Remember respiration. To create energy, you need two things. You need glucose and you need oxygen. If you hold your breath for 5 minutes, will you get any oxygen into your body? No, right? So what will happen, right, is that you might have glucose in your body, but it have no oxygen to mix it with. So if both are not present, you will not get what? Energy. And of course, when your body starts to not get energy, the brain and heart and everything, because it's not getting enough energy, it's going to shut down. And then you die. Right? So that's the answer to that particular question. Right. And someone asks about the stored energy. Let's say that, remember, does everyone remember that your body stores energy as fat? You all remember that from earlier on? I know said that if your body does not get enough energy, it will shut down. So somebody raised a very, very good point. But what about the fats in your body? Remember, the fats are the reserve energy. For your body to take fat and convert it into energy, it takes too long, right? This will not save you in life and death situations. Your body takes a considerable amount of time to convert fat into energy. It will not be fast enough to save your life. All right. But this is a very detailed explanation, right? It just, if you hold your breath for 5 minutes, your body is not going to be able to turn enough fat into energy within that 5 minutes. All right. So good question, but the conversion of fat into energy, the reserve energy, which is fat into energy, is a real detailed conversation we will need to have. It's not a straightforward process. All right, so let's get ready to move on, right? All right. What makes up plants and animals? All right. So everyone take a look at their hands or their forearms or your palms or your fingernails and just look at any part of your body. If you had a very, very powerful microscope and you were to zoom in to any part of your body, you will realize that your body is made up of smaller living particles. Yes, it seems creepy, but your body, you are made up of trillions of smaller living organisms. So you are an organism made up of other organisms. These smaller parts are called what? Anybody wants to tell me? Look at circle in it there. These smaller parts that make up your body are called what? Anybody wants to tell me? They're called cells. Okay? So take down this. You don't have to draw the diagram. What makes up plants and animals? Cells. Just take down that, right? And we're going to talk about these cells in a little while. So, cells. Now, the thing about it, there are two types of cells on the syllabus. animal cells and plant cells, okay? If you zoom into a plant, it's made up of trillions and trillions of smaller parts called cells, but plant cells usually look a little bit different than animal cells. Now, at first glance, for those who never did this topic, right? I know this is going to be a little bit intimidating. Here's the thing, I'm not going to ask you to draw this now, because I know if I ask you all to draw this now, I'm going to have to pause class for what? 15 minutes, right? To be fair. So remember I told you all that whenever I want you to screenshot something, I will advise that you screenshot it. Do me a favor, screenshot this, and if you can't screenshot, don't worry, the class is being recorded, it will be uploaded. But for homework, class is not finished, by the way. For homework, you are going to have to draw this back super, super neat in your books. Screenshot it and make a note to do for homework. Let me know when you're finished screenshotting it. And I want to discuss the cells a little bit, whatnot, okay? So let's start off with, well, this part over here. Let's start off. I'm going to circle which part we're talking about. Not going to discuss all, just the more important parts. Cells are very, very, very small, right? Really, really, you need a very powerful microscope to see them. Inside the animal and plant cell, it doesn't matter if it's an animal cell or a plant cell. Both of them will have something called a nucleus. A nucleus is like the brain of the cell. He is the boss of the cell. Just like how your brain tells you exactly what to do, your brain inside your head there coordinates your whole life. It tells the rest of your body what to do. Cells, you could think of it as having a small brain. You could think of it like that, right? The nucleus, or this black circle here, he tells the entire cell how to behave, when to do things, if to do things, how to do things. He's the boss. He's the manager of the cell. And both plants and animals have a nucleus. If you look on top of this, you will see a very strange word, mitochondria. The mitochondria is the part of the cell that performs rest. Don't worry, I'm going to give you a note on this after. You don't have to take down anything now. Respiration. Remember earlier, I said that there's a certain part of your body that mixes the glucose and oxygen to get energy. Guess what? That part is called the mitochondria. And that's this orange part here. And both plants and animal cells have what? Mitochondria. They are also called the powerhouse of the cell, meaning that they produce energy. Inside both cells, there's something called the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm is like the liquid part of the cell. Just how, like for example, if you fill a balloon with water, the water inside the balloon where everything is floating around is called the cytoplasm. So the cytoplasm is the medium for everything to float around in. What about this thing called the ribosome? Are proteins important in our body? Are proteins important? Yes. Now, here's the thing. You can eat proteins, like you can eat chicken and beef and any kind of meat or soya or even tofu. You can eat proteins. But did you know that your body can make its own proteins? It can make its own proteins. And if, well, your body will need to make proteins, right? Let me explain something very strange. You will actually eat proteins, your body will destroy the proteins and then use the destroyed protein to make new proteins. It seems weird, huh? That's like you go to a house, you break down the house, and then you use the bricks from the house to remake a new house. Seems strange, right? But quick question. If you break down a house and you use the bricks and everything from the old house that you broke down and you built a new house, do you think the new house will look like the old house? What are your thoughts on that? No, right? And most likely the house will look a little bit different. The same thing with proteins. You will eat proteins, your body will break down the proteins and then use the parts it broken down into and build back new proteins. And these new proteins will most likely look different from the old protein. But the part of your body that builds these proteins, which are super important for muscles and tissue repair and to heal wounds and whatnot, Mr. Ribosome, the yellow circle, is responsible for that. And all cells, you notice both cells, look carefully, it's easy to see in the animal cell. You all see a kind of dashed line going around the cell. And for the plant cell, if you look real close to the green wall, you all see a dashed line also. That dashed line is called your cell membrane. Now, let me explain what a cell membrane is. You see, cells need things to go in and things to leave. Things are always coming into a cell and things are always leaving the cell. You don't have to worry right now about what is coming into the cells and what's coming out of the cells. That will be for later on. Think of your house. Would you like, I mean, people just come into your house all the time and leave your house, right? House people come in and leave all the time. It could be family coming, friends coming and leaving and whatnot. Do you want anybody to come in your house and anybody to leave your house? Or is there a sort of security system, like a door or even an alarm system or a lock, a key or something? Everybody here who has something like a piece of property has a way of managing who comes in and who leaves. That's the same thing with a cell, you know. The cell membrane comes like the security system and who manages what comes into a cell and what leaves a cell. Because a cell doesn't want anything to come in. It doesn't want poison to come into it. So the cell membrane manages who comes into the cell and who leaves the cell. Now you see everything in the middle, the mitochondria, nucleus, cytoplasm, ribosomes, and cell membrane. Both plant and animal cells have those things. In other words, the things in the middle are what are common to both plant and animal cells, right? Obviously, there are differences between a plant and animal cell, and here are the differences, right? Plant cells, right, have something called a cell wall. It's an additional barrier around the cell membrane. They have something called a large vacuole. This here is the vacuole, right? Plants do not have this thing called a large vacuole. They have small vacuoles. You're probably wondering, but what does a vacuole do? That's for later on. Just know that plants have large vacuoles and animal cells have tiny vacuoles. Plant cells also have something called chlorophyll. It has two things, chloroplast and chlorophyll. That's this green thing here. The chloroplast is the actual thing, and the chlorophyll is the liquid that lives inside of the chloroplast. So it's like a balloon with green liquid in it. By the way, that is what gives plants their green color. Remember, plant leaves, most plant leaves are green. It's the chlorophyll is what gives plants the green color, because chlorophyll is green in color. Remember, I told you all that plants create their own food. Plants create their own glucose in a process called photosynthesis. Guess who is responsible for that? the chloroplast and chlorophyll. They help the plant make their own food, right? So, and by the way, inside the nucleus, which will be for very detailed discussion later on, inside both nucleus, there's something called chromosomes and DNA. For those who watch Jurassic Park, you probably heard the words chromosomes or DNA already. Chromosomes and DNA live inside the nucleus. It lives inside the brain of the cell. Now, quick question. Are cells considered to be alive? Like if I take one animal cell or one plant cell, are they considered to be alive by scientific definitions? Are cells considered to be alive? The answer is yes. Plants, one individual. I know you have trillions of cells in you right now. Each individual cell, by scientific definitions, is considered to be alive. However, each individual part, like the mitochondria, the nucleus, the ribosome, let's say we take one ribosome. Let me say we hold one ribosome in our hand or one mitochondria in our hand. Are they considered to be alive? Is one ribosome by itself alive? Or is one mitochondria by itself? Or is one nucleus considered alive? The answer is no. I know it seems strange, right? But by scientific definitions, it's not considered alive. It's only when we put all of them together, only when we put the nucleus, cytoplasm, when we put all the parts together to get a cell, that cell with everything in it is considered to be alive. In fact, the smaller pieces that make up a cell, like the nucleus, are called organelles. Not organs, organelles. So organelles, which are the smaller pieces of a cell, individually are not considered to be living. It's only when you put all of them together and all of them start to work together, then it's considered to be alive. That is why you need to know this definition. A cell is called the smallest functional unit that is capable of carrying out all life processes. That's a very fancy way of saying a cell, a single cell with everything in it working together, is the smallest possible thing that we consider to be alive. The individual parts by itself are not alive, only when you place them together in the cell. All right, but you all already took a screenshot, so when you're drawing the diagram and whatnot, make sure and write the note and definition below and memorize it for the exam. Okay? All right, let's move on, right? Right, so here is the table I'm gonna ask you all to take down, right? The things in green, right, are only the reason our plants are green, right? So I kind of color code it, right? The things in green only belong to plants, right? It belongs to plants. So here, do not write it down as yet. I want everyone to read through this table and tell me if it's the same thing that I just said. But I just use fancier words, right? Remember, I had explained what the cell membrane does. I had explained what the mitochondria does. I want everyone to read it first. And if there's a term that you don't understand, I will quickly explain it. But read and ask me questions, and then I'll give you 5 minutes to take down the table. Now, remember, plants and animals have a vacuole. It's just plants have a huge vacuole and animal cells only have small vacuoles. any system, right? Whether it be a small cell or whether it be a big building or a house, all systems or all communities or whatnot, doesn't it need food? Everything needs food, right? Like cells need glucose or even fats, right? You could store fats inside of cells, right? But all systems will produce waste. Think about your house, right? All house, or everyone here lives in a house, I assume so, right? And everybody needs food, right? You could go in your kitchen and find food so you can eat the food so your body can break down the food. But then you produce waste. Now, waste could be toilet waste, or it could be waste like you throw away food wrappers in the garbage, right? So all systems need food and produce waste. Now, in your house, lucky for you, you have two different areas to store food and a different area for waste. Your waste will be like your toilet, and your food will be stored in your kitchen. Unfortunately, a cell is not so lucky, right? A cell keeps its food and waste in the same place, the vacuole. That's like you storing all your food in your toilet. Pretty gross, right? But that is what a vacuole does, okay? It stores its food and waste in the same exact place. And that same exact place is called the vacuole. The other one now is semi-permeable. Remember when I was drawing the cell membrane, I used dashed lines like this? Semi-permeable means it has small holes in it. So these small holes allows things to leave and enter. So big things will not be able to fit through the small holes, better known as the semi-permeable membrane. So semi-permeable just means it has small holes in it. And these small holes allow certain sized things to enter or leave. Right? So someone said I made a spelling error with chloroplast. Not too sure where, but don't go too hard on me for spelling, guys. Sometimes, when you're typing up slides, you might miss a letter here, miss a letter there. Let's go. Let's see what's next on the list here. I think y'all deserve a small brain relaxer here. So for $10 big dollars, right? Y'all know how to play the game. Choose two numbers, and if they end up being the same color, you win. Anybody won the $10? Were your two values the same color? If they are not, better luck next time. But for those who got the same color, add $10 to your total. Courtesy of GB. Oh Lord, it have two fours. I didn't realize that. Well, both fours are the same color anyway, so we're lucky. Let's move on. All right. So this is something here that you're not going to have to draw now, right? But I'm going to encourage you all to take a screenshot, and whoever wants to draw this back whenever they get enough time, they can. But let me talk a little bit. Do you all remember the cells that I had asked you all to draw a few minutes ago? Let me just go back to it quickly. When you go into most textbooks, right, they will draw an animal cell looking like this. The most popular shape for an animal cell is a kind of circular thing, right? And then inside it, it have the organelles. Just like how this looks. And for most plant cells, they will draw it like a kind of rectangle, and then they will show that the organelles live in it. So a lot of students go away or leave the classroom with the idea that all animal cells look like that, or all plant cells look like that. And this is just simply not true. For example, let me just go back here quick. If an alien were to come to Earth and he asks me, hey, what does a dog look like? And he has his laser ray pointed at me and tells me, draw a picture of a dog. I'm gonna like get scared. I'll draw this. I'll draw two legs like this, right? This is me shaking. I'll draw a little neck like this, a little thing like this, and some dog ears, right? And you know what? What idea would he get? He would say, hey, all dogs look like that. But is that true? No, that's just a general diagram of how a dog looks. We know for sure that not all dogs look like my crappy drawing there. It have pit bulls with a totally different shape. It have huskies with a kind of much more different shape, right? What's another dog? Not good with dogs. A Doberman or Doberman. I didn't know how to pronounce that, right? And a Chihuahua. Somebody said a Chihuahua, right? The same thing goes with cells. Not all animal cells look like the diagram we saw a few slides ago. If we go in the human body, these are examples of all the different cells that can be found in the body. You notice all of them have greatly different what shapes. Look how a nervous cell looks. You know, nerves, the things that transmit pain, right? Look how alien-like that cell looks. Look how bone cells look. The point is, there are many different types of cells in the body, and all of them have different shapes and whatnot. But don't get me wrong, all of them have something in similar, but the majority of them have something in similar. Like they will all have mitochondria. They will all, except for one of them, have a nucleus. They will have vacuoles. They will have ribosomes, but their shapes are completely different. So I want you all to screenshot this and make a mental note now, right? Not the cell diagram that you saw a few slides ago. It's just a general diagram of a cell, just like how I drew a general diagram of a dog for the alien, right? So when you're finished with the screenshot, just let me know and we will move on. And just to answer one question, are we going to be discussing all of these different types of cells? Yeah, the syllabus requires us to discuss all the different types of cells in the human body, right? Well, the majority of them, but that's not going to be for the summer. That's more detailed stuff. We will be doing that from September, you know, when we continue with the syllabus. Right. So let's talk a little bit here. This one, I think you'll be able to draw a simplified diagram when they get chance, right? Or you can screenshot it. And I'm not too sure these, I haven't decided how I want you to take this note. All right. So let me get an example here for you, right? Big things, bigger structures are made up of smaller things, right? Like, for example, a building. Let me say we have a huge skyscraper. From far, it looks like a huge skyscraper. But if we walk closer and closer to the skyscraper, won't we see it's made up of smaller pieces like bricks, iron, wood, probably some glass? And of course, if we go up to the woods now, let me say it have some wooden structures inside the skyscraper. When we go close to the wooden structure, we'll see that the wood has nails in it. It's made up, it has smaller particles in it. It's almost the same thing with the human body. Like our organs, like our big organs, like our liver and lungs and heart, right? Those are called organs. Do you think when we zoom in to an organ, won't we see that it's made up of smaller parts? So let's start off with one of the smallest parts inside a human body or any living organism. You all remember organelles? Remember, the organelles are the things inside of the cells, things like the mitochondria. I know it's kind of hard to see, the words are kind of small, but this is supposed to be like our mitochondria. our lysomes or ribosomes and whatnot, and our nucleus. Quick question, are organelles considered to be alive? Well, what do you all remember? Are organelles considered to be alive? The things that live inside of a cell, are they considered to be alive? No. These things, are, by scientific definitions, are not considered to be alive. However, when you take all the organelles and put them together, you get a cell. You get one cell. And when you take many cells and put them together, when you take millions and millions of cells and put them together, you get something called tissue. And then when you take different types of tissue, one thing though, there are many different types of tissues in the human body, right? Tissue is like muscle or anything like that. It's kind of, they ever hear about an athlete damaging his muscle tissue and whatnot, or somebody got burnt in a fire and you hear that their tissues have been damaged in their face or arms or whatnot. There are many different types of tissues in the body. The types of tissues depends on the types of cells. If you put different types of cells together, you get one type of tissue. You put different types of cells together, you get another type of tissue. So tissue is made up of different types of cells. And there are many different types of tissues. If you put different types of tissues together, you notice I use different colors here, pink, yellow, and a kind of blue. I'm trying to put the point forward that when you put different types of tissues together, you get something called an organ. Now, you gotta be real careful. Huh? If all the tissues are the same, will it be an organ? Yes or no? If you put a whole set of same type of tissues together, will you get an organ? The answer is no, and that's very important for the exam. It's only when you put different types of tissues together to get something bigger, it's called an organ. So that means your liver, but that's a diagram of your liver, by the way. Your liver is an organ, and it's made up of different types of tissues, many different types of tissues. Your heart by itself is made up of different types of tissues. So it's called an organ. Your brain is made up of different types of tissues. It's called an organ. And when you begin to put organs together, like you put together your stomach, which is an organ, and your stomach works together with your intestines and remember, to get food into your stomach, and you have to eat in any case, your mouth, your tongue, and all of those things are organs. When you put different organs together and the organs begin to work with each other, you call it an organ system. So that is the breakdown from small to large. Right? So here what, I made up my mind. I want you all to draw this for me. You don't have to draw it exact. You just draw something here, a circle and a square, and call it organelles, right? And then for the cell, you just draw the outline for me. The tissue should be easy to draw. The liver should be easy to draw. And over here, you just draw a stick man and take down words underneath it, right? So it's a gradual buildup from the smallest particles, and it shows you how it's gradually grouped together to reach something as complex as an organ system.